Good.
So good morning, everybody. It's usual again, it's Friday. And today we're going to continue the next part, which is receptiveness for anything. This is actually a big statement. But as usual, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persist until we succeed. So today we've got a little program about being open to be receptive at the same time, to have our own thoughts and our own way of saying and doing things. But before we do that, I just want to show you one slide. Oh, I can't.
Oh, wait, here, hold on.
I don't know how to do that. Yeah.
Go ahead. I gave you privileges.
Thank you. Share screen. Share screen. I can't do it. Don't know. I can't do it for share screen. Oh, yes, I can. I'm a genius. Okay. So there's this one slide that I just wanted to. We've got a whole series of these types of slides, but here's one which is actually conducted by a university, and it says, which of these reasons would make you most hesitant about hiring a new college graduate? Lack of emotional intelligence and people skills is the biggest one. Lack of experience, 21%, and lack of technical skills, 11%. This is from university. And it's when you're interviewing a recent college graduate for a position, are they more focused on what you will provide for them, or more focused on how they can contribute more to your business? So this is exactly an X-ray of where we are with the people that we're talking to as well. We're talking to people who have got all kinds of skills in their own fields, but do they have the emotional intelligence and people skills? In other words, the mindset to be able to do this business in a way which is successful for them and for the team. Are they team players? How open are they to learning? You know, and also, what is their attitude? Is it how much is it in for them, or is it how much can we do for the team? So these are just some of the observations that I thought might be relevant to start off with when we talk about receptivity or receptiveness of our way we talk to people and who we speak with. So, Dan, if you want to go with that.
You want to start off with your mantra, Lawrence?
I did, didn't I?
I don't think so.
I thought I did. I'm getting soft. The slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persist until we succeed. So today, receptiveness for anything, entrepreneur/leader, that's what we're talking about from that.
Yeah. So, when we start talking about receptiveness, we're spending a lot of time talking to folks, recruiting them into the business and trying to persuade them about our vision and our ideas about the particular business that we're talking about, which is the scanner business and the nutraceutical business. But when you're having a conversation with somebody, it needs to be two ways, right? There has to be some give and there has to be some take, and you need to spend a lot of time listening rather than just talking and shoving a bunch of information down their throat. So as an entrepreneur, you have to really be receptive to feedback and questions and criticisms towards the business. And, I fully welcome any criticisms or questions that people have, because that gives me the opportunity to not only be receptive to what their concerns are or what their questions are, but it also allows me to educate them about our business, right? And you can't do that in a few short sentences. It takes a 15, 30-minute conversation to at least give somebody a 30,000-foot view of what we're doing. And so as a good entrepreneur, as a good business owner, you need to always be open to new ideas, criticisms, receptive to be able to succeed, right? And you can't always figure things out on your own. That's why we work with a great team of people on our team And some of us have strengths and some of us have weaknesses, or we all have weaknesses, and we look upon the strengths of others and are receptive to what they can actually offer our business and what we can offer their business. Lawrence and I were having a good laugh last night because I sent out I sent out a bunch of emails to some optometrists, some of who I met at a meeting and some who I didn't meet, but I got the list from the conference of all the attendees, and I sent out a mass mailer basically saying, I may have met you or you may have heard a physician speaking about this technology at the meeting. And one particular doctor got back to me and berated me for not only he didn't meet me, but he wanted to know how I got his email. And that when somebody's talking to him about selling them something for his eye care industry, for his eye care business, they usually refer to him as doctor. So that kind of rattled me all day. So that kind of a little bit floats into what we're talking about today, being receptive. You have to be receptive to all kinds of people. And that kind of rattled me all day because I just couldn't believe that somebody would take their time to kind of berate me about an email that I sent, something that I was just trying to introduce them to. But I maintained my composure, and after a little while I sent him a nice email back apologizing for calling him by his first name and not being respectful, and blah, 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 blah. And just basically said, if you're interested in learning more about the technology, I'd love to speak to you. So, it takes all kinds of people to make the world go round, and we need to be receptive to all kinds of people and all kinds of challenges in our daily life in this business.
That's a Napoleon complex. Napoleon was only about 5 foot high, and he was, tremendous general, and yet he had a complex about being a small person. So sometimes we get people that have a little complex about something, and they want to stand out with something that they've achieved, and that's all understandable. So it takes all types, as you've just said, and this is a Napoleon guy. In fact, you should have said to him, "Dear Dr. Napoleon."
I won't tell you what I wanted to really send to him.
I know.
It had to do with something being small, but it wasn't.
So the thing is, we've got to have thick skin and be able to, to be able to have like a water off a duck's back if it's an unfounded criticism. Like, well, we've got to understand that person as well, but we shouldn't let our ego get in the way of being criticized or something being brought to our attention. So we've got to have a yin and yang thing. We've got to be secure in our belief, but open to recommendations, suggestions, opinions, and all the rest of it, so that we've got to be able to be receptive to what somebody might be thinking, which we may not have thought about, in this case, this Napoleon guy, or at the same time be secure in what we know. So we have to be able to be humble and strong. And I think this is one of the characteristics of being of having receptiveness to criticism. But criticism, I think, is fantastic. I love criticism because it makes us grow. And in fact, in our three-way conversations, I think when we do three ways, the more three ways we do, the better. And one of the best parts of the three-way is the regrouping afterwards, the feedback from our team member. How did it go? So that is where we can say, well, this is where I could have gotten better. This is where I could have, maybe improved. This is where I should have, or we should have, or where you should have, and that interchange of ideas, I think, is important, because being open to the receptiveness makes us grow. And I think growing is something very important. and especially if we can learn to dominate our ego and not be emotionally altered by criticism.
Yeah, and going back to when Lawrence was talking, I was thinking about this. This is going back to ego again, right? Being able to be receptive to other people and listen to what people have to say, and suggestions they have for running your business. And the last 18 months, 20 months, whatever it's been now, I can't keep track of how long this pandemic's stretching out, but we've had to change a lot of things in the way we're doing things, and we've had conversations with other people about that. Other people have come up with new techniques or new ways of recruiting, and so we've had to be receptive to that change and receptive to what others are doing and incorporate that into our daily business activities. And so receptivity in business, means being open to receiving knowledge from others, ideas from others, incorporating things, suggestions that they have into our business, and receiving inspiration from a variety of sources and inputs. So we talk about it a lot. We talk about, books and reading books. Make sure you're reading, a book a week about business or motivation or whatever it may be. Listening to TED Talks, getting on these calls, they're all ways to receive that knowledge. And so it acknowledges how we approach life and all the work that we do every day to process and make sense out of the signals that are around us all the time, and that we're receiving from other people that are professionals in this business. And one of the other things that we're coming back to when we're talking about receptivity is that mindset, right? Is having that fixed mindset versus that growth mindset, right? If you have a fixed mindset, you're not going to be interested in what anybody's going to say, suggestions that they may have, ideas, innovation, things like that. But if you have that growth mindset, you're going to be open to receiving suggestions from others in the business or others in your life. And, and all these things, there's so much that can be said about letting go of your ego and cultivating that growth mindset, because it's going to affect every facet of your life. And that's what I like about those two things. If you really want to make changes in your life, positive changes, you let go of that ego and you take a more growth mindset approach to your life and receiving and being receptive to others.
Dan, as you're talking, I was just thinking about, excuse me, about 3 weeks ago, Joe Scalia completed a triathlon race, I guess you could call it. And I was there, I went to see him, and on a Sunday morning, for me to get up at 5 a.m. is like not done, but I did. And I drove an hour to go and see him do that, witness it, and to cheer him on. And from there, I was inspired to think about my own fixed mindset, where I say, well, I'm too old to do all that kind of stuff. And what am I going to start trying to do stuff at my age and all this kind of stuff? That's a fixed mindset. And then I said, no, absolutely not. So what? My age is just a number. I don't accept it. I don't believe it. So yesterday I went to see Joe with what I think is called a Withing scale. I don't know what else the name is. So you put you stand on it, and then you hold on to this thing until measure your BMI and your cell weight and your cell age and all sorts of stuff. And I got myself a Fitbit, and now I've got into a new era of growth mindset, where I'm actually looking at something that I hadn't even bothered about. I've always been interested in my health, but not so much in terms of fitness as well, and to try and be a little competitive and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, well, why not? I've got an Olympic pool right here in my clubhouse. I've got my own pool, and I got a bike, and I got a Nordic track. So the progressive mindset, or the or the growth mindset, and the ego is all part of, and the receptivity to doing something is all part of this, where I'm now receptive to doing something completely new that I haven't done. I've never, ever been a competitive runner or swimmer or anything like that. And I'm not suggesting I'm going to do it, but at least as a competitor, but I'm going to do it because I want to be part of something that I believe is good for me. And so what if I come last? I don't care, but I'm going to participate. And so what if I'm not the best? Who cares? So it's just about doing it and being the person. And these are the questions I always ask. Who are you? Well, I am a growth mindset person.
So,
That's open to everything.
That's interesting when you're talking about being receptive and what you did with Joe yesterday, and you went out and got a Fitbit. Why did you want to get a Fitbit?
Because I know very little about technology, but Joe was one who actually showed me how this Fitbit, tracks everything. It tracks your food, it tracks your calories, it tracks your heart rate. It's got absolutely everything. It's a little computer on here, and it's fun. And it's actually fun. I'm actually tracking my calories. I've never done that. I've just eaten healthy, but portion control, not so much. So calories and it's being open to something new, open to something that I'm not accustomed to doing. And technology is something, it's a real pain in the gluteus maximus for me. But I'm learning to do it.
Right. So you got that because you want to be able to track your steps, your weight, your calories burned, your, all of these different things. And, that's what we talk about with lag measures and lead measures, right? Measuring where we are and where we're going, right? And being able to do that. It's very important to be able to measure something if we've got goals set, right? We don't want to just set a goal with no end in mind. We want to have steps to get there, how we're going to track that success, meeting those goals. And so it's important to have something like that to be able to measure your success. In our business, we may measure our success by how many scanners we place. We may measure it by how productive those scanners are that we have in practices. We may measure it by how many team members we have that we brought into the business. We may measure it by how successful we're helping our team members be, how many scanners they're placing, how successful those scanners are being once they're placed, right? And so we always have to have that measure of goals and how we're going to get there from where we are today. Because if we're not moving forward, we're staying stagnant. And as Lawrence says, you'll remain in the past. I'm not 100% sure exactly what that saying is that you said, Lawrence.
Comfort zone of mediocrity. And if you don't embrace science, technology, innovation, change, you'll remain in your comfort zone of the past and you'll be historic.
Right, exactly. So, good points. And, if you're not measuring or figuring out or know exactly how you're measuring your success or how you're measuring reaching your goals, reach out to somebody on the team, be receptive to how they're doing it. Maybe incorporate that into your daily activities and your measurement of success.
When I speak to some people and I say, how's it going? And they say, same old, same old. I think that is so sad. And I think we've constantly got to evolve in some way. So, for example, tonight there's a 5-kilometer race. I'm in that race, 5K. I'm probably the oldest guy in there. I don't care. I'm just going in for the fun of it. But I'm doing something that's out of my comfort zone as much as possible to be able to be relevant to myself. Because that's what's important. Be relevant to yourself so that you can motivate others to do the same thing or to do in their capacity. So when you in our business, the same thing. We have the goals, and then we're constantly trying to evolve into being better and being more productive and helping people in a different way or in a better way, and helping more people. And I think this is what's exciting, where we're able to make a difference. And to make a difference, we've got to be receptive, we've got to be open, we've got to let the ego go out the window, we've got to embrace change, and we've got to be absolutely enthralled with the unlimited possibilities that are in front of us, because we cannot limit ourselves at any time for any reason on anything. We've got to be open-minded to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And being open-minded to everything and being receptive doesn't necessarily mean opening yourself up to all the noise of the world, right? It means saying no to distractions, getting rid of distractions in your life and being able to focus on the things that matter, right? You know, we've had this talk on our team calls, and I believe we've talked about it here, is, you know, getting rid of distractions so you can be more productive, so you can be more focused. And when you're rid of those distractions, being able to ask whoever you're talking with, communicating with, good questions allows you to be more receptive, because you're going to listen. When you're asking questions that you're interested in about that person, you're going to be more focused on receiving what they're talking to you about. So it's getting rid of those distractions that enables you to be more receptive. You know, one thing that I've trained myself to do over the years, you know, in the Buddhist thought process and meditation, is being in the now, right? Being focused on where you are at the moment, right? Not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, just thinking about now, and you know, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the person that you're communicating with at the moment, focusing on what's in front of you instead of thinking about all these different things that we have going on in life. And when you're able to do that, I believe that you're able to be more receptive.
Well, you know, we always talk about, or we jokingly say, you know, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately, but we don't. We use the mouth as if we had 2 ears, and we use the ears as if we have one. I mean, as if we have the other way around. So what I'm saying is, you know, you're absolutely right. Listening is an art. In fact, I just give an example. Yesterday I was on a 3-way call, just listening to one of our team leaders doing a 3-way. I was just listening to him doing the call. And there were so many times that I was like, oh, I was going to say something, and oh my gosh, bite your tongue. And that is actually that restraint takes training, because it's not easy to restrain yourself. And you just got to remain with a, you know, immobile or expressionless face, and let people do their thing. And then afterwards you can have a little conversation and say, you know, by the way, you forgot to say this, or you could have done that, or I could have done that, whatever. So listening, I think, Dan, is huge. And in fact, I often refer to Larry King. He was, in my opinion, an excellent interviewer, because he just asked the question, and a poignant question, and then let the people go on with their own stuff. And he would dig into that emotion, and eventually people would kind of open up and you know, do the same thing. So I think the listening part is huge, because we learn much more by listening than by talking.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I'll shut up.
Absolutely. Would you listen for once, Lawrence?
Yeah.
Anyway, looking at I can barely see Chuck Ray's clock, but it looks like it's getting up there close to 10 o'clock. Yeah, he must be an hour, or he hasn't changed his clock back. But it's almost 10 o'clock. Do we have any questions? Concerns, comments? Yeah. We're here to not only talk, but listen.
This was really good on listening. I mean, it hits on some of the primary elements we need to think about every day. I have a question on something different, though, and that is this announcement that just came out on the new Nu Skin Connect. And is this the software that Stephen had mentioned before, that's a really good software that we should all take serious attention to?
The Keep app, or
no.
So there's an app called the Penny app.
Penny app. I saw the word Penny.
Yeah, so Penny app that's a standalone app, but they got into a corporate agreement with Nu Skin, and they do that with other multi-level marketing companies. And so basically, the only difference between you having Penny app yourself and the corporate integrated is that they provide all the content. but as far as I understand it, it's more of a retail tool.
Yeah.
For people that are, selling product directly to other people. It's not really probably that useful for what we're doing with the scanner. I used it for a little while. I thought that it was pretty useful for reminders to follow up with people and kind of creating a funnel kind of. But the more I used it, I just didn't think it was that really effective for what we're doing with the scanner business. I used it for a couple of months.
What do you use, Dan, to
I've been using that. I stopped using close for a little while, but just because I wanted to hyper focus on the Penny app and connect. But I'm back to using close for right now. But I am looking at Keep as well.
At what?
Keep, Keap, keep.com.
Okay.
But the more I I never really took a huge deep dive into close, and it seems to, once I took a deeper dive into that, started learning a little bit more about it. It's a little bit more effective. But I think,
are you closed for reminders? Will it pop up your reminders and stuff?
Yeah, it'll do that.
Okay.
And then, you can tag people, and then you can send out mass emailers by tagging, them as optometrist or chiropractor or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's really good, I think. Okay, well, thank you for that. And thank you for this call. It was good.
All righty. Any other?
Thank you, guys.
All right, Lawrence.
All right. Well, if there's no more
Inspiring
questions.
to see what you're doing, Lawrence. It's terrific. I should walk in your steps more.
Well, that's
Follow your excellent example.
well, thank you. Thank you.
Really,
But
Lauren,
you got to do a lot of kicking and screaming, Martin. You can't just walk right away. You got to do kicking and screaming, and I have to get him cajoled to do the right thing. But honestly, I am proud of you, Lawrence, of being so receptive. It is a great call, and Dan, you hit it right on the head. You cannot improve what you can't measure, and that's what we're all about in the scanner business, and that's what we're translating here on a personal level. So, congrats, Lawrence. Keep up the good work, and post your results too. I'm still waiting for you to post the results to me for last night's walk. All right. Great job, guys.
Yeah, there's some of us guys really getting inspired by you, Lawrence. So,
Well, it's leading by age.
yeah, there you go.
No, the thing is, what's scary is seriously, on a serious note, what's scary is, I look at people my age, and I think, of course we compare, it's an instinct. It's a human instinct to compare ourselves. And, since we are in the healthcare industry, and I do visit physicians or, going to the hospital where the doctors have got their clinics and so on. And I see people that are much younger than I am in really serious shape. And I think, OMG, I do not want that. So I'm going away from that pain to something that is a pleasure. So I'm running away from pain and I'm going towards a pleasure. The pleasure is feeling good. The pleasure is achieving something and being able to quantify what we're doing.
I'm reminded of the words of my father-in-law, who, when he contracted cancer in his 70s, said, "Boy, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself."
Yeah.
And I think we all need to bear that in mind, because if you take the view, Mark Yarnell, who was a leader in our company for many years, a lot of years ago, always worked on the assumption that he had a website that was called 20 Years More. And I think if we always look at the fact that we have at least 20 years more, then we need to act, to build, to take care of our health accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, most people come to that realization a little bit too late in life. A serious event has to happen until they say, okay, I need to start taking better care of myself. And by that point, you're not that it's not reversible or beneficial to make those changes, but you may already be on a downward spiral that's hard to get out of.
Well, change and inducing people to make that change is what we're all about.
Yeah. Yep.
In fact, Dan had his very serious challenge about a year ago, and his mindset, I believe, was a contributing factor to his recovery, because he just did not accept that he was going to get, he didn't even accept this thing. And yet it was a stage 3 cancer of the colon. I mean, that's a serious thing. And he beat it. And this is something that is also, his lifestyle has always been healthy. He's an outdoorsman. He likes to climb mountains. I don't know what for, but that's what he wants to do. But he climbs mountains and he rides bikes and all these healthy things. But that's all part of it. It's like that cake I talk about with the segments of the cake. There's so many parts of that cake, and each one of them is essential to the wheel running smoothly. So we've got to have the health, and we've got to have the fitness, and we've got to have the finance, and we've got to have the mental attitude, and we've got to have the family, we've got to have the community, all of these things to have this perfect machine that we are running smoothly. And I think the mindset is one of these huge aspects of it.
I had a guy send me an email. He's from Dallas, and I had been visiting my brother. So I take my scanner everywhere with me. And so they happened to be over at the house. I, scanned him. He had a suboptimal score. He sent me an email saying, I've got a dear friend who has cancer. Can I have him contact you? And, I said, thanks, sure, you can have him contact me. And I'm sitting there thinking, I got to send him back an email and say, oh, by the way, this is a perfect example of you think you're healthy. You're trying to get me to help someone after the fact. Do you want to be ahead of that or not? That's just the question,
Yeah, that's true.
When we do prevention absolutely wonderfully, but when we cross over into the cure, then we're flirting with the FDA, and I think that's pretty dangerous territory, although there are things we can certainly help people with.
No, that's so true. As a matter of fact, I'm extremely cautious when people do that. And, I will let them know, look, here's some things we have. I don't say, oh, this will take care of that disease. It's like, but you sit there with quiet, what is it? It's not empathy, but maybe it is, it's like, damn, why didn't you come to me or listen to me, 5 years ago? It's in a way, it's very hard to ever be our job to try to help someone after the fact. But boy, we can do one hell of a lot before the fact, can't we?
Yeah, we really can.
We've also got to take into account nutrition because, I think the thing is, especially you mentioned you were in Texas, and I'm not trying to profile, well, I am, but not really. But the meat eaters are out there in Texas, generally speaking. So it's a question of lifestyle choices as well. People get sick, and it can happen to anybody. Any kind of thing can happen. It could be genetic, whatever. But I think one of the things we can do is to say at least be conscious of the food you eat and the stress and the lifestyle choices and so on, because those are all contributing factors. Stress is one of these humongous problems that contribute to us being sick as well.
Yeah, that's so true what you're saying. And it has to be an integral part of the framework we set up for someone on a preventative basis. To just go sell them some nutritional supplements is not doing the job. And so your focus on stress is, I think stress is indeed the biggest killer. And so it's incumbent upon us to open their eyes to the aspect of the stress that they're incurring as well and try to help them remediate that.
I'd just like to say one other thing on that subject. Maybe, I don't remember who it was, but I listened to an oncologist about, 5 years ago. And she said 70% of 70% of non-communicable diseases are preventable which I've been saying it all the time. But she
Right.
said, are of 70% of non-communicable diseases are of choice. And I said, what? She says, yes, you choose to eat crap, you choose not to exercise, you choose to smoke, and you choose not to meditate. Now, meditation, she added, she's an oncologist. Why meditation? Because that's where you start to get peace of mind. That's where you get rid of all this noise and all this stuff that comes along in our lives. So I'm just saying that part of it is huge. Look, the mind, man, it's all about the mind, in my opinion. And we've got to focus on everything we do starts with the mind. How we
I'll just add this one quick story. When I got cancer, it was 4 years after. You go back every year with your oncologist. I finally intimated to the oncologist that I was in a business partnership where I got absolutely screwed. And within 90 days, I had cancer. And the doctor didn't miss one beat. He goes, 90%. I said, what do you mean? He goes, Jim, I hear this 90% of the time. And this guy's dealing with multiple cases of cancer every day. And he did not miss a beat in telling me that. And so when we talk about preparing your body, you're absolutely right, Martin, or not Martin, pardon me, Lawrence. You need to prepare your mind so that when a stressful event arrives, you're predetermined on how you're going to respond to that. And that takes practice.
You know, just recently, well, about a month ago, I got COVID, even though I'd vaccinated twice and what have you. I got vaccinated in February, I think, but I got COVID. And when I got it, we were in the doctor's office, their clinic, and Kari, my wife, said, she said, well, it's positive. And I said, oh, okay. She said, oh, is that all you got to say? So what am I going to do about it? I've got it. So now I'm just going to put it out of my head. I'm not going to worry about it. Whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on a problem, it's going to grow. If you focus on the solution, it's going to grow. So I said, okay, I got it. So what? Let's just take action on it. Finished. I'm not going to worry about it. Finished. I absolutely didn't think about it. Didn't even worry about it. So, you know, I'm just saying. So it's the mind. Okay, so I'm sorry we've gone a bit long here. Thanks to everybody for being on and your patience and your contributions. Always lots of stuff here. I don't know what he was saying. Good gun, proactive versus right. Genetics loads the gun. We pull the trigger. There we go. That's a good one too. All right. So thanks, Dan. Thank you, Martin, Jim, and everybody, Joe, everybody for your contributions. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for us being on the call. And we look forward to the call on Monday morning.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a
Please
good weekend.
start to get people to go to Utah on the 20th of January. Start now.